Welcome to Jay and Laura TV. We are Jay and Laura LaFoon here to answer your questions about marriage and relationships. Please feel free to send them to us either via Facebook or our website.
Well, here's a little disclaimer.
This is a fun question.
What's a fun question? But if there are little ears in the room, you need to scurry them out because this is definitely PG-13 or heavier. I'll just say that. It is a very serious question.
Real question.
And it's one we get more and more, and so we have to bring it up. We have to bring it up. So, this is the question. So my wife is busy with children and home stuff. She is exhausted every night, thus she really has no interest in sex. Can I find my sexual satisfaction somewhere else? There's a one-word answer for that question. No. Now, I know as a man, at periods of time in our relationship, when Laura has been less than interested in me, that I become very frustrated, and start thinking about things that I shouldn't be thinking about. And the reality is, when you stood at the altar, you said, "This is the one. This is the one, baby." And so, yes, your wife is exhausted. She has children, but you've got to communicate about this. You've got to talk to her about what's going on inside of you and the temptations that you're having. They're not her fault, but she can help you avoid those temptations. It's just like, we both help each other avoid temptations of eating pizza because it's not
chocolate
good for
cake.
Yeah, this is one of those areas. And here's the beautiful thing about having the courage to talk about this with your wife. If you can learn to talk about your sex life, you can learn to talk about any part of your life. It's very difficult to talk about the sexual needs men and women have, but when you can talk about that, you can talk about anything.
Well, there is a other side of this equation, and that is the woman's part of the equation. And I know because I was there, I had 2 young children, I was working full time, I still had stuff to take care of at home, I had a husband that traveled. There's a lot going on in the life of a woman. I understand that. I am one, and I've raised 2 children, and life has been busy, and life still gets busy. But the problem is that this wife is putting her priority on something other than her husband, and that's her children. And again, as women, I understand, especially when your children are young, you think they can't do without you, they can't live without you, but they can. And part of that is you've got to get them on a routine so that they can go to bed at a decent time, so that you have time with your husband. You're right, your husband is an adult and he can take care of himself, but there's ways you don't want him to be taking care of himself, so you need to be taking care of him that way.
My mother used to say, keep his cup full.
But there is 2 sides to this equation, but what has to happen is communication, number one. The husband does need to communicate about how he's feeling, because I'm going to tell you 9 times out of 10, your wife doesn't want you going and finding your satisfaction somewhere else. She doesn't even realize. 99
times out of 100.
She doesn't even realize that you're thinking that, because she's too exhausted and too busy with the children. And then the other side of the equation is that the woman needs to make her husband a priority. That relationship needs to be a priority. The kids need nothing more than to see that mom and dad are in love. And
study after study shows that the healthiest thing you can do for your kids, the best thing, mentally, physically, educationally, is for your kids to see you in love. When that happens, they're so much more mature and healthy.
So that was the long answer. The short answer was no. We are Jay and Laura. Thanks for joining us today on Jay and Laura TV. We'll see you next week.